Everyone mocked the injured dragon prince at auction until a human mechanics bid silenced everyone. The auction hall reeked of desperation and greed. Elizabeth wiped her oil-stained hands on her coveralls, feeling distinctly out of place among the glittering elite of the galactic consortium. Crystalline beings from Vertex 9 clinked their champagne flutes, their translucent bodies refracting the harsh overhead lights. Beside them, the reptilian Strack merchants hissed softly to one another, calculating profit margins with cold precision. Elizabeth was only here because Liam had begged her. Her apprentice had seen the auction listing and hadn't stopped talking about it for weeks. "Boss, they're selling a draconian," he'd said, his young eyes wide with excitement. An actual dragonkin from the Imperial homeworld. Now, watching the auction platform, Elizabeth understood why Liam had been so insistent and why her stomach churned with disgust. The draconian prince hung suspended in an energy cage, his once magnificent wings shredded to ribbons. Burn marks scarred his golden scales, and one of his legs bent at an unnatural angle. His eyes, deep amber pools that should have blazed with inner fire, were dim, defeated. The crowd around her laughed as the auctioneer gestured dramatically at the broken creature. "Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, his voice dripping with theatrical contempt. One draconian male, formerly of royal blood, age 237 cycles. Condition: damaged beyond repair. Recommended for component harvesting or gladiatorial disposal." A Strack merchant raised a claw. 500 credits. His scales might make decent armor plating. Laughter rippled through the hall. Elizabeth's jaw tightened. "The wings are useless," commented a Vertex merchant, her crystalline voice like breaking glass. "But the heart might power a small vessel for a decade." 600 credits. More laughter. The draconian prince's head dipped lower, his chains rattling softly. Elizabeth had seen this before, not with sentient beings, but with machines. Starships brought to a scrapyard that everyone else had written off as worthless junk. She'd learned long ago that what others saw as trash often contained something salvageable, something precious. But this wasn't a ship. This was a person. "Liam," she whispered to her apprentice, "how much do we have in the repair fund?" The young man's eyes widened. "Boss, you can't be serious. That's 50,000 credits. We've been saving that for the shop expansion." "How much?" Liam swallowed hard. 53,240 credits. The bidding had reached 1,500 credits. A Corthian warlord was proposing using the draconian for target practice, training his soldiers on live exotic specimens. The crowd roared with approval. Elizabeth raised her hand. 50,000 credits. The auction hall fell silent. Every head turned toward her. The auctioneer's jaw went slack, his three eyes blinking in astonishment. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "Did you say 50,000 credits?" Elizabeth repeated, her voice steady and clear. "Cash, transferable immediately." The Vertex merchant who'd been bidding earlier let out a crystalline laugh. "A human mechanic. You do realize that's a draconian prince, not a broken hyperdrive, don't you?" Elizabeth met her gaze without flinching. "I know exactly what he is. And I know what you all are, too." She looked around the hall, her expression hard. "Scavengers, parasites. You see something broken and think it's worthless. You wouldn't know value if it bit through your hull plating." The Strack merchant hissed angrily. "That creature is finished. His wings will never heal. The Dragon Empire won't pay ransom for damaged goods. You're throwing away your fortune on organic waste." 50,000 credits, Elizabeth said again, pulling out her credit chip. "Going once." The auctioneer looked around nervously. When no one else spoke, he shrugged. "Going twice. Sold." To the human mechanic, the energy cage deactivated with a crackling hiss. The draconian prince collapsed onto the platform, his body crumpling like a broken machine. Elizabeth rushed forward, Liam close behind her. She knelt beside the prince, gently touching his shoulder. His amber eyes flickered open, focusing on her face with difficulty. "Why?" he rasped, his voice like grinding stone. "Why would you waste your fortune on wreckage?" Elizabeth smiled softly. "Because I'm a mechanic, and we don't see wreckage, we see potential." "Can you walk?" The prince tried to push himself up, but collapsed again with a pained growl. Without hesitation, Elizabeth slipped her arm under his shoulders. Liam moved to support his other side. "Come on," she said. "Let's get you to the shop." 3 months later, Elizabeth stood in her workshop, watching the prince test his wings. She'd spent every spare moment studying draconian physiology, consulting with the few xenobiologists willing to help a human mechanic. The biosynthetic grafts she'd designed weren't perfect. They'd never restore him to full flight capability, but they were functional. The prince's wings spread wide, the new synthetic mesh gleaming silver among his golden scales. He'd regained weight, his scales polished to their former brilliance. The limp was almost gone. "How do they feel?" Elizabeth asked. The Prince Draca. She'd learned his name was turned to her, his amber eyes now blazing with that inner fire she'd glimpsed in the auction house. "Like hope," he said quietly. "Like dignity." Liam emerged from the office, waving a datapad excitedly. "Boss, you're not going to believe this. The Dragon Empire just transferred 2 million credits to our account. Apparently, Prince Draca's family has been searching for him for 3 years. Elizabeth's eyes widened. She looked at Draca, who smiled an expression that was all teeth and terrifying beauty. "I told them," Draca said, "that a human mechanic saw value where the galaxy's elite saw only trash. I told them that humanity's greatest strength isn't their weapons or their ships. It's their stubborn refusal to abandon something just because it's broken." He stepped forward, carefully folding his new wings. "The Empire wishes to establish a formal alliance with humanity, and they want to commission Elizabeth Santos to head a new xenobiological engineering division." Elizabeth looked at the 2 million credits displayed on Liam's datapad. Then, at the prince standing tall and proud in her workshop, she thought of all those who'd laughed at the auction, who'd seen only wreckage and profit. "Not bad," she said, a grin spreading across her face. "For a simple mechanic." Draca's laughter filled the workshop deep, resonant, and free. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, and humanity's reputation grew a little brighter in the endless dark.